The water skin is wet where it should be dry. You find the dark patch with your thumb. It is no wider than a fingernail. A little moisture has gathered around one stitched seam where the leather bends against a camel's load. In another place, on another journey, it might be nothing. Here, it is a warning. The caravan is crossing a section of the Sahara where no dependable water waits for 10 nights. You press the seam. You check the knot above it. You move the skin so it will not rub against the bundle beside it. Then you check it again. Around you, people prepare to move in darkness. Camels complain as they are made to stand. Ropes tighten. Loads shift. Someone walks the line and listens for a vessel that sounds wrong when it moves. The person whose hands you are using is not named in the surviving account. You are a fictional composite, placed among the ordinary workers and travelers who made a documented crossing in the year 1352. We do not know your birthplace, your legal position, the language you spoke at home, or whether you ever reached the end. We give you no private words from the archive. One traveler in this caravan is known. His name is Ibn Battuta, a legal scholar from Tangier who had already crossed much of the medieval Islamic world. Years later, he would describe this journey in a book known as the Rila. He recorded salt walls, brackish water, a missing man, a desert courier, and the fires of a party coming out from Walata. But a famous traveler did not carry a caravan across the Sahara. That required people who understood camels, rope, leather, forage, wells, weather, prices, and the changing shape of land without a road. It required workers at the salt mines, guides from the Masufa, merchants with contacts at both ends, and people in Walata willing to bring water north. It also required every small failure to be found before it became a final one. You lift the damp skin away from the load. The seam is still holding. For now, that must be enough. The journey begins 4 months earlier at Sijilmasa. This is an oasis city at the northern edge of the desert, in what is now southeastern Morocco. Water from the Tafilalt supports gardens and date palms. In the market, North Africa meets the long roads leading south. Ibn Battuta arrives in the autumn of 1351 and waits through the season before the crossing. He buys camels. He lays in what he calls 4 months of forage for them. The detail matters. The animal called the ship of the desert does not remove the need for supply. A camel can endure conditions that kill other pack animals, but it still needs food, water, rest, and a handler who notices injury before the load begins to cut through skin. On the first day of the Islamic year 753, corresponding to the 13th of February 1352 in the translation used for this episode, the caravan leaves Sijilmasa. Ibn Battuta says it includes merchants from the city. He does not tell us exactly how many people or camels depart. Any precise number would be an invention. The goods moving with them belong to a system centuries old. Cloth, glassware, ceramics, metal objects, paper, and other northern products travel toward the Sahel. Gold moves north through connected markets. Salt will be loaded in the desert itself. People are carried through this system too, some by choice and some in bondage. Enslaved people are not an incidental shadow at the edge of the trade. They are part of its violence and its profit. The route is sometimes reduced to 2 words, gold and salt. That is useful and dangerously clean. A caravan is investment, debt, taxation, labor, animal power, local knowledge, and risk shared unequally. A merchant may think about the price at Walata. A hired worker may think about the rope cutting into his palm. An enslaved traveler has no reason to describe the road as opportunity. At the edge of Sijilmasa, the last dense patch of green begins to fall behind. There is no gate marked Sahara. There are fields, then drier ground, then distance. The city remains visible until haze, and the shape of the land take it away. The caravan does not enter emptiness. It enters a network whose next link cannot be seen. Travel becomes repetition. Wake before the strongest heat. Check the bindings. Raise the camels. Move while the air is still cold enough to make breath visible. Stop when sun and labor begin to cost more water than distance is worth. Make shade with cloth. Move again as the day weakens. At night, gather the animals and listen. The Sahara is not one landscape. The caravan crosses hard gravel, exposed rock, low ridges, pale flats, sparse grazing, and sand that can erase yesterday's marks. There are dunes, but not an endless wall of them. There are also places where the ground punishes a foot or hoof with stone. There is no paved track running south. In parts of the route, there may be signs left by other movement. Dung, a cold hearth, trampled ground, bones, a broken cord. But wind shifts sand. Distance separates one watering place from another. A useful mark can disappear, and a false confidence can survive after it. The guide carries the route differently. He knows the angle of a ridge, the character of ground beneath the stars, the order in which landmarks should arrive, and the places where grazing may be found. This is not instinct, and it is not magic. It is accumulated, practiced knowledge. The caravan itself is a moving machine that never becomes mechanical. One loose load pulls a saddle sideways. One sore animal slows the line. One person walking ahead toward a patch of grazing may look back and discover that distance has swallowed everyone behind him. The safest place is not at the front or the rear. It is inside the group, where another human voice can still reach you. For 25 days after Sijilmasa, this pattern carries the caravan south. We cannot reconstruct every camp. Ibn Battuta did not leave a daily log of meals, weather, arguments, or repairs. The silence between departure and arrival at the next named place must remain partly silent. Then the ground changes again. Salt lies below the sand in thick, pale layers. Cut into slabs, it looks almost like stone shaped by a mason. The caravan has reached Taghaza. It is not an oasis in the way a thirsty traveler hopes an oasis will be. It is a mine, a settlement, and a market built around something people farther south will pay dearly to obtain. Ibn Battuta disliked Taghaza. His judgment has echoed for centuries, partly because his is the description that survived. He complains of flies, brackish water, and discomfort. He writes that the houses and mosque are built from blocks of salt and roofed with camel skins. The material detail is vivid. The contempt belongs to the traveler. Taghaza exists because the desert here contains wealth that cannot feed the people extracting it. Dates arrive from the north. Millet comes from the south. Camel meat supplies part of the diet. Water can be used, but its taste reminds every visitor that this is not Sijilmasa. The mine workers named in Ibn Battuta's account are enslaved Masufa people. They cut through sand to the salt below. The slabs emerge in thick layers, one above another. A camel can carry two, he says. Those blocks will travel toward Walata and the towns of Mali, where their price rises with every stage of distance and danger. The salt trade is often described as if the slab itself were moving. It is not. Hands uncover it. Tools separate it. Workers shape it. Rope holds it to a saddle. Camels bear it. Guides carry it along a route whose water must be known in advance. Merchants calculate what it may buy. Political authorities protect, tax, or control the exchange. Profit accumulates around labor that the archive records unevenly. The caravan remains at Taghaza for 10 days. Loads are changed. Salt is added. Food and forage are counted. Water is taken on for the harder stage beyond the settlement. The brackish supply is better than an empty container. You examine each skin for cracking. Leather dries, flexes, and rubs against rope. A bad seam can be repaired here. Farther south, repair may save the container while failing to replace what has already leaked away. At night, the salt walls release the day's heat. Camels shift behind low shelters. Flies settle and rise again. Ibn Battuta saw a place with nothing good in it. The workers who lived here had no such luxury of departure after 10 days. When the caravan finally turns south, it carries blocks of their labor into the open desert. It also carries every drop it expects to need. Beyond Taghaza lies the section people remember. Ibn Battuta describes 10 nights with no water on the way except on rare occasions. In 1352, rain had left pools in some hollows. The caravan found sweet water between rocky rises and drank. They even washed their clothes. Relief does not cancel the calculation. Every morning begins with an inventory. Which skins are full? Which have softened? Which knots moved during the night? Which camel drank well at the last halt? Which animal is no longer chewing, or rises too slowly, or carries its head at the wrong angle? Water has weight. More water may keep a traveler alive, but the animal must carry it along with food and cargo. A load too heavy can injure the camel that makes the whole journey possible. A load too light may become a death sentence days later. The balance changes with every drink. People walk ahead when they see grazing. Others lag to adjust a saddle or recover a dropped object. The line stretches. On open ground, a person can appear close long after shouting has become useless. Then one man disappears. Ibn Battuta says that members of another caravan reported missing companions. His party found one of them beneath a desert shrub, still dressed, a whip in his hand. Water lay about a mile away. The account gives no final speech and no dramatic discovery of an empty skin. It gives distance. 1 mile. Close enough to imagine. Far enough to kill. After that, Ibn Battuta says, he no longer went ahead of the caravan or fell behind. The lesson is not that the desert is haunted or that death arrives from nowhere. It is that separation breaks the human system that makes the crossing possible. A guide cannot correct the path of someone he cannot see. A companion cannot share water with someone he cannot find. At the next halt, you run a finger along the damp seam again. The patch has not spread. You add another binding and move the skin away from the hard edge beside it. No one celebrates. The caravan still has nights to cross. The next named stop is Tisarahla. Its precise modern location is uncertain. Ibn Battuta describes subterranean waterbeds and a place where caravans halt before the final approach to Walata. The travelers stay for 3 days. This is not wasted time. Animals rest. Loads come down. Water skins are opened, examined, and mended. Sackcloth covers are sewn around them as protection against the wind and abrasion. The dark patch you found is cleaned and dried. A needle passes through leather that has already crossed hundreds of miles. The seam is reinforced, then wrapped. When the skin is filled again, everyone watches to see whether it holds. It holds. At Tisarahla, the caravan also hires a takshif. Ibn Battuta explains the word as a Masufa man paid to travel ahead to Walata. He carries letters from caravan members to friends or business contacts. Those messages arrange lodging and warn the town that travelers are coming. People then ride out from Walata with water and meet the caravan 4 nights from the town. Anyone without a personal contact can write to a merchant known for honorable conduct who provides the same service. The system depends on reputation carried farther than a voice. Ibn Battuta says the caravan paid its takshif 100 gold mithqals. The price measures the importance of the task. If the courier loses the route or dies, Walata does not know when or where to send water. A caravan can approach the end of its crossing and still fail beyond reach of help. The courier leaves alone. Ibn Battuta's account surrounds this part of the desert with demons that confuse a traveler's mind. We do not need to turn that belief into a monster in the sand. Heat, fatigue, isolation, fear, and a landscape without a fixed, visible track are dangerous enough. The takshif becomes smaller against the ground ahead. Then he disappears. For the caravan, the final stage begins with an act of trust, that one skilled person can move faster than the group, hold the route in his mind, and make Walata answer. The caravan leaves Tisarahla with repaired skins and no proof that the message arrived. Day follows night. Loads rise and come down. The horizon offers shapes that become rock, scrub, or nothing at all. People begin to measure time not from Sijilmasa and not from Taghaza, but from the moment the tack shift vanished ahead. On the seventh night, someone sees a light. It is low and unsteady. Then another appears beside it. Ibn Battuta says they saw with joy the fires of the party coming out to meet them. The sentence is short because the system worked. The courier reached Walata. Letters found their recipients. People gathered water, loaded animals, and traveled north for several nights. The rescue was arranged before the danger became visible from the town. The meeting party does not arrive from an empty horizon by chance. It comes from a community connected to the caravan by trade, kinship, faith, credit, hospitality, and reputation. Some travelers have friends waiting. Others rely on a merchant they have never met but whose character is known along the route. Water passes from full containers to depleted ones. News moves in both directions. The party from Walata asks who is traveling, what goods survived, which animals were lost, and whether other caravans were seen behind. The travelers ask about prices, lodging, officials, and the road ahead. You untie the repaired skin. It is lighter now, its contents almost gone. The reinforced seam is dry. Fresh water enters it. This is the moment later stories might turn into triumph. The desert defeated, the traveler victorious. But nothing has been defeated. The caravan crossed because people on both sides maintained a chain through country too large for any one group to control. Camels carried the physical load. Guides carried remembered geography. The tack shift carried warning. Walata carried water north. Every link depended on another. The fires remain ahead through the night. For the first time in weeks, they are not the caravan's own. Walata appears not as a green miracle, but as a town. Mud-built walls take shape against bare hills. People, animals, stores, courtyards, officials, and markets replace the narrow social world of the moving caravan. Ibn Battuta says the journey from Sijilmasa took 2 months less 1 day. At arrival, merchants place their goods in an open square where local guards take responsibility for them. The travelers go to meet the governor's representative. The route has ended inside an organized political community of the Mali Empire. This matters because old descriptions often make the Sahara a boundary between two worlds, civilization to the north and mystery to the south. The caravan's own operation proves otherwise. Sijilmasa knew Walata. Walata knew when to send water towards Sijilmasa's merchants. Masufa guides and couriers linked wells, mines, camps, and markets between them. Goods carried ideas, legal practices, writing, religious learning, measurements, credit, and news, as well as material cargo. Walata is not merely the place where northern travelers arrive. It is a place from which people, knowledge, food, and trade move outward. Ibn Battuta did not always understand what he saw there. He was offended when local hospitality did not match his expectation of status. He judged social relations, especially between men and women, through the customs of his own Maghrebi world. His account preserves unique observations, but his disapproval is evidence about him as well as about Walata. The composite traveler whose hands you have used now reaches the limit of the record. We can place ordinary labor on the road because the caravan could not function without it. We cannot claim where you sleep in Walata, what payment you receive, or whether you continue toward the Niger and the court of Mali. Ibn Battuta continues, you do not. The water skin is unloaded. Salt slabs are counted. Cloth bundles are opened. The camels kneel without the weight they carried from Taghaza. Around them, a desert crossing becomes a market day. The account of this journey was not written beside the road. After returning to Morocco, Ibn Battuta dictated the story of his travels. A scholar named Ibn Juzai shaped the material into the literary work now called the Rila. Memory, convention, observation, reported stories. and the writer's personality all entered the surviving text. That does not make the crossing unreal. It tells us how carefully its details must be carried. The departure date is recorded. The 25 days to Taghaza are recorded. The salt blocks, enslaved mine workers, imported food, brackish water, and 10-day stay are recorded. So are the waterless stage? The dead traveler found about a mile from water, the 3 days repairing skins at Tisarahla, the Masufa takshif, the meeting party's fires, and arrival at Walata after 2 months less 1 day. The damp seam is reconstruction. So are your hands. They stand for the maintenance that a famous traveler could overlook even while his life depended on it. Medieval maps sometimes filled the Sahara with rulers, gold, tents, camels, and wonders. Modern imagination often empties it again, leaving only dunes and a single line of silhouettes. The historical crossing was neither crowded fantasy nor blank space. It was a route made and remade by human relationships. Some were cooperative. Guidance, hospitality, partnership, credit, messages, and shared water. Others were coercive, enslavement, forced labor, and unequal control of movement and profit. Both belong to the history. The caravan carried more than cargo. It carried dependence. Merchants depended on workers. Travelers depended on camels. Camels depended on forage and care. The whole group depended on guides. The guide depended on remembered land. The final stage depended on a courier. The courier depended on people in Walata believing the letters he carried and acting before the caravan arrived. When the last load is opened, the repaired water skin is only an ordinary object again. Its value came from where it had to hold. Across nearly 2 months of desert, survival was not one heroic act. It was a chain of small things that did not fail at the same time.